Good morning, good day, and good evening to you, wherever it is that you might find yourself at this beautiful moment in time. Welcome to the Wednesday Wanderer, the show where we unravel the beauty of adventure and creativity one story at a time. This episode is brought to you by Anchor. We are also brought to you by Michael B. Isbell Media. At Michael B. Isbell Media, we specialize in online branding and massive campaign content creation for any company or brand to help boost your visibility online. Using the power of content writing, photography, podcasting, and videography to reach your community where they already spend their time and attention. As well as our direct branding and consultation services, we have helped thousands of brands across North America become more efficient and save time and understanding on their creative process by making easy to read and understand digital tools that will walk you through the steps to building out your brand in a massive way off the work you're likely already doing. Shop Michael B. Isbell features a broad variety of merch that you can pick up to show your support for any of the shows under MBIM's network, such as The Wednesday Wanderer, M&M's for Breakfast, or any of my own content with creative designs constantly being added in for purchase. Be sure to use the coupon code TWWSupport on shopmichaelbisbell.com to receive 20% off your entire purchase, whether that be digital or physical products. That's TWW Support on shopmichaelbisbell.com. Taylor Ri'chard is a writer, director, and producer out of Atlanta, Georgia, making thriller films that represent his passion and Louisiana upbringing, such as his upcoming feature film, Hallowed Be Thy Name, streaming everywhere beginning June 2nd. In this episode, Taylor and I talk about his inspirations and where he draws from to create his features and short films, diving deep into the legacy behind the brand and why he does what he does. We talk about persistence, ultimate dream projects, and Taylor's history with a family of pranksters that inspired his style of writing. We also go into how he left the corporate world and the degree that he went to college for to pursue his true passion and creative call, and so many other awesome topics. So without further ado, I give you Taylor Ri'chard. All right, and we are good to go. What is up, Taylor Ri'chard?
What's
oh my gosh.
up? Dude, how's it going?
It's going awesome. I know everybody that you've been on a podcast with has said this, but I absolutely love the name. I gotta say it. I gotta add to the list. I gotta be another one.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It's fun when people pronounce it right. Sometimes I get Taylor Ri'chard, and I'm like, that's not me.
You're like, did you see the apostrophe? Because
I don't know,
we did. You know, it's funny. I actually get the same thing because with my last name, I'm Native American, but the last name comes from French. Mm-hmm. So it's like everybody mispronounces it. It's Isbell, but people will say like Isabel or Isbell. Or like, I'm like, there's not even an A in the name, bro.
No,
like, where are you coming?
It's very simple.
Yeah.
People love to butcher names, but it's okay. We forgive them.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's kind of funny actually at the end of the day because it's like what comes out of their brain, you know, when they see you. It's just hilarious.
Right.
So you're a writer, director, and producer of movies like The Final Project from 2016, Cold Blood, and Justified from 2018. And your newest piece of work, which we're here to talk about, Hallowed Be Thy Name. Something I like to have all of my guests do, though, before we get into anything too super serious, is like, in your own words, how would you describe yourself to someone that's never heard of you, doesn't know you? What do you want them to remember you by? Like, who is Taylor Ri'chard to you?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I don't know if I could sum it up, but I think, I don't know. I like to be known for, being a hard worker, focused, and someone who is a lover of the arts. So I support, music makers, producers, writers. I love it all. And so I think if going down, I want people to know me as a true artist and a true creator and a true collaborator.
Yeah, I really love that, like, from all the podcasts I was listening to that you've been on so far, we actually have a very similar vibe in that it's all creative and legacy based. And we'll talk about that more as we go through, but I actually started in corporate America too. So it's
nice.
Yeah, like everything that I do now is because I became like the top of that. And then I was like, I don't want this. This sucks.
Yeah,
I'm all alone.
It happens. And you're like, you know what? I need something different. Let me try something new. Yeah.
So, Hallowed Be Thy Name. I did a little bit of research and I found out that that's actually a song by Iron Maiden. And I'm really curious, did you get any inspiration by that, or did the title just come to you differently?
So I'm Catholic, and so the title is part of the Lord's Prayer. Hallowed be thy name is something you say when you're saying the Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Right.
And so my movie has a lot of biblical references in it. And so hallowed be thy name is kind of fitting for the religious factions that are part of the feature.
Is that how you're supposed to pronounce it? Is it hallowed or is it hallowed?
It's hallowed.
I totally misread that. I don't know why, because I know that line, like the hallowed.
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. About 3 podcasts I've had, it was like hallowed be, and I was like, well, it's not how it's hallowed be thy name, but it's okay.
That makes much more sense. Yeah. Like I was so confused. I was like, hallowed, like what does that mean? I was like, I don't understand. That's a lot better. Okay, that makes a lot more sense to me actually, because I come from like very Pentecostal back. Like my dad was a preacher growing up, doing music for him. It's just like, yeah, definitely. I'm surprised that I didn't pick that up, but I've never seen it written down. I've only ever heard it recited, so I didn't know how it was spelled. So when I saw that, I was like, hallowed? I don't know.
I always have like this private chuckle. So I hear hallowed, I'm like, that's not it.
Hey, the more you know. You know what they say? It's like you can't control what the interpretation of your art will be. It's like
absolutely.
You know, it's like they put out Avengers, but maybe everyone else reads Avengers or Avengers or Avengers. Who knows? You don't know how people are going to interpret it, you know?
French, Avenger.
Yeah, Avenger. I like it. So I'm going to read the summary of the movie really quickly. So superstition, magic, and bad decisions drive us down a road into a small town in rural Louisiana with Devin, a 17-year-old boy, being dragged to his mother's hometown after his parents' ugly divorce. After arriving to his grandmother and settling into his unwanted new life, Devin meets 2 locals who swept him out of his comfort zone. Like most teens, they are curious and ignoring all warning, they venture deep into a forsaken cave, thought to be haunted by local town people. Together they meet Koshmar, because I know you're how you say it? Kushmar, because I know your names are inspired by French names, right? As with your culture. A legendary demon that wreaks havoc on all those it encounters. They learn quickly that sometimes in life we have to allow nature to take its course because there are some things that just aren't meant to be. Ever hear the saying, when man plans, God laughs? That statement has never been more true than in this story. I love it. It sounds creepy.
I like hearing it. I never heard it read to me before. That's good. I like that.
Really? He's like, ooh, I've got the chills now.
Yeah, I do. I have a great team of people around me. And so the one of my associate producers actually wrote that. And it sounds really good. I like it a lot.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I know you said in another podcast it's going to be on streaming services, right? So Hulu, Amazon Prime. Is it going to be on Netflix? Because I didn't hear that mentioned.
Are you talking about the film?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it's, I just got my carriage letter a couple of days ago. So now I can actually answer that question. It's going to be on AT&T. I'm looking at the carriage letter. I put it on the wall because it was so exciting. It's going to be on AT&T, Uverse, Comcast, Charter, iTunes, Xbox, Vudu, Amazon, Google Play. Eventually it'll come to HBO and Showtime, and then Hulu, and then it will release to Netflix as the last resort because Netflix, they don't pay that much. So
yeah, that's true. Netflix is more so that place that you go to like once it's been out for a while. Right. And it's like, Netflix is like, let's watch a movie we've seen before, not necessarily, this is new.
Yep, it's true. I think we're going to be releasing our pre-ordered notes sometimes this weekend. So we'll start having pre-order go up where you can pre-order the film, and then the film will release on June 2nd.
June 2nd. Oh, nice. I thought you had said October in the podcast that I listened to. So that's really exciting. That's a lot closer.
It's here. We're here. Yeah. And I'm very excited.
That is awesome. I really like that you're putting out a horror-based movie not at Halloween time. I really like that actually. Because that's a big difference.
My first film came out in February. And then later in March, because I had like a double release. And this year we were going to do it earlier, but we had a lot of stuff that we needed to get done with another project. So we kind of got bumped on this one for June. I like being unconventional.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool though, honestly. I mean, when you go more so with the flow, I think you have a better chance to like actually create something, you know? And I've heard you talk about that before. Like you're not so much of like a director for hire. It's like you kind of do it on the free fly, right?
Yeah. Well, I like writing. I consider myself like an auteur. You know, I like to write my work after I'm inspired by something, and then I want to direct it. And I'm heavy in the production part, the producing part of it. I feel like, you know, when you look at a painter, for instance, they're an artist. When they go to paint, they're not getting, you know, no one's coming to them and saying, hey, this is what I want you to paint most of the time, unless you're commissioned, you know, to do a job. But I like the idea of, you know, it's in my head and now I'm going to paint it on the screen the way I saw it, the way I dreamt it, the way I was inspired to tell the story. For me, that's the fun part. Right. That's the exciting part.
You see, I actually really connect with that because that's how I make everything. I talk about this a lot on my podcast. Is I genuinely don't believe that we as human beings are instinctually creative. I think that we channel creativity. So it's like we're like the lightning rod. You know, it's like you're not necessarily the lightning itself, but you're the filter that lets the lightning come through. Absolutely. That's exactly how I create. You know, it's with music. I put on a recorder and just freestyle. If it sounds good, I write it down. If not, I scrap it. And
keep it going.
With the movies I've written, because I've actually written 2 movies myself. I've not made any movies before because I'm not quite to that point yet where I have like the ability and the money to be able to put into that. But I do definitely want to make those movies eventually. And how I did that was similar to your process from what I've heard, where it's basically I just saw it. It was like I watched the movie in my head and then I was like, holy crap, that has to be a movie. And I wrote it down.
It happens, you know, like I keep a notepad by my bed. A lot of times I'll dream something and it only will be like in little flashes. I'll see a scene play out or something happens. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And, you know, your dreams, they escape you as soon as you're up for 5 minutes. So I write them down in the middle of the night, you know, keeping notes. And then I read back over them. And if something really stings out to me and I'm like, okay, this is something I start researching and digging into stories to figure out, okay, what's interesting? Then I look at the world around me, the people I meet. I'm like, would they be interesting? What is interesting about this person? And sometimes I take something about a person I may have met 10 years ago and I use little nuances of their personality. And from there, I'll build the whole story around it. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a lengthy creative process, but it works for me, you know?
Right. Yeah, I feel that because it's like on my process, I have to like see it first, think it through, then write it down, then produce it and actually make it like what I saw in my head. You know, so it's like, I definitely understand your process because like, although that's hard because like everybody wants to have their, you know, their little 2 cents and like their weight in on it. You know, everyone wants to have like, I'm the director, I'm the producer, I'm the writer. So it's definitely hard to be all of those roles, but I think it's really cool that, you know, you do that anyways.
It does happen. It is hard. You know, filmmaking is very much a collaborative, you know, situation. You do have to collaborate with, you know, people who are going to have strong opinions, like your cinematographer, other producers, whoever is given the money. They're going to have an opinion about how and what it should be. And so, but I've learned what works for me is that I dive myself so deep into craft that once I lay my story out, it's often rarely challenged because I am one of those people that really do work a storyline in and out so that when I do present it to the people, they bought it because I believed in it so much and so I'm able to sell it better. I don't really ever share my work until it's 100% in my mind.
Exactly, yeah.
Ironclad.
Do you poke holes in your own stuff too? Because I totally do that all the time to try to make it. Yeah, it's like you just keep poking it until nothing leaks.
All the time. When I'm creating my arc, I throw this board up and I beat the story out all the way through the sequences. And if it doesn't make sense, it's even right now my next film that I'm working on as a psychological thriller. And what I started with, and I can share this because I completely changed my mind about it. But the movie started with a slave reference back in the day. And I was like, I really don't want to tell a slave movie.
Right.
And so I've reworked the whole thing. And I feel like now the concept that I'm at right now is so much stronger. But that's because I'm always willing to edit myself. And a lot of times I look at some of these filmmakers, they are so talented and they have some really good premises. But sometimes the story isn't thought out or fleshed out all the way, and they create these films, and then it's not as successful as it could be. And it's because they were so committed to what they were doing, which is fine, but if we don't know how to edit ourselves and keep an open mind about the work that we present, as well as the work that we are a part of, we can't grow. You know?
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
And it's important as an artist to grow so that you can continue to do what you love, because in this business, you have to have thick skin. And so you're going to have to be able to take critiques and criticisms and things like that, especially when you get to a place where you're putting your work out for the masses. Right. I mean, my first feature film went to, everywhere, theatrically, digitally, and it wasn't the most critically successful film. But because I was willing to take the criticism and put myself out there, the second film that I'm coming out with is much stronger. Right. Because I went and I learned craft, because I was willing to listen and edit myself. And
not give up, because a lot of people, they would get that criticism. They say, oh, I'm out. I'm going back to corporate. Bye, guys.
Oh, yeah. It happens a lot, too. And it's sad to see that people get themselves so close and they hear one bad review or one bad comment. And they're like, well, this isn't for me. Well, it is for you. You got to understand, in the art world, you're going to receive more no's in life than you will ever receive yeses. And the thing is, you only need a few yeses for a very successful career. That's it.
It just takes the right person.
Yep.
That's it.
But you gotta keep chugging through the no's to get to the yeses.
Yeah. So exactly. And it's even with the no's, if you're putting out, like, for example, with content, online content and stuff, if you're putting out stuff and it's not really getting that much engagement, for all one of those few engagements that you are getting could be someone extremely influential. So it's like, you never know. Like, it may not be the exact thing you're doing even that like attracts them, but like you could give them an idea and then now they want to pull you in on it, because they're like, hey, I was watching your video and I got this idea. And since I got it from you, let's work together, because there's a lot of people that are like that,
It's true. You got it, but you won't know if you give up at the first step. It's hard, but you got to keep going.
Exactly. So what is it that actually attracted you to the horror genre? I've heard you talk a little bit about that. And I know you're branching out now, making different kinds of movies. And we'll talk about that more here in a minute with the other genres and stuff. But like, did you used to make scary movies with your friends, or is it just something that you loved, or was it after the corporate thing that's what you fell into, or like what was the process of getting into horror specifically?
So there's a couple of things that kind of led me here, right? So I first of all come from a very big pranking family. So we're always playing a lot of jokes on each other constantly. I mean, it's just a thing. If you go to my mom's house, you're going to get pranked. Someone's going to throw a fake snake on you. Someone's going to throw a dead rat your way. I don't know what's going to happen. Someone may blow a foghorn in your ear. I don't know. But it is a big thing when our families scare each other. So that's kind of what started the whole thing. And then my grandmother was a big horror buff. I mean, she used to watch tons and tons of movies. And I remember she showed me this movie called Mother's Day, 1980 film that came out about a woman and her two sons who were like mass serial killers. And I remember watching that film and I was like, wow, this is good, but I could probably make this better. I actually said that as a child.
I think that's
as a kid. And then, and I was like, but you say it and then you're like, wait, and you start doing it, it's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I was introduced to Wes Craven's, and really the rest is history. I absolutely fell in love with Fred Krueger. I mean, if you can see my office now, I have a collection of the pop heads, all the little horror characters. I got Hannibal Lecter, Chucky, Freddy, Jason. I have a bunch of them. And I have this little life-size version of Freddy. I'm a huge Freddy fan. Awesome. But from there is where it all started, because I started getting very fascinated with independent horror films. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. Excuse me. After seeing Blair Witch and feeling kind of similar to how I felt with what is it called? Mother's Day, I was like, well, you know what? Let me try doing my interpretation of that film. Right. And that's what the final project was. It was a reimagining of the Blair Witch kind of vibe. Right. Where you can actually kind of see the monster or the person after you and whatnot. And I felt like we did a good job. I mean, for what we had and didn't have, especially releasing at a time where the genre was kind of falling off, that's really what led me down that road to doing that really film. Cool. Just a long line of being inspired by all these great film people that do horror.
Have you like always made films and always been into movies, or was it something that came after the corporate stuff?
So I went to school originally for mass comm and film. Nice. But it just wasn't working out. I tried, do a few things. I actually worked on a film called Murder on a Sunday. It was a documentary, and I was an associate producer. That film actually won an Academy Award. Very exciting.
Congratulations.
No, well, not me, but congratulations to them. But I was a part of that team, and I was very excited about that. And I loved the process, but it was expensive. And I didn't really know my voice yet. I didn't know my pen yet. So I didn't really know who I was just yet as an artist. And so I went into corporate America. I got my MBA, and I was like, I'm going to go work. And so I ended up working for a host of, AT&T. I worked at, what else? Was it Blockbuster corporate office? I've done a lot of corporate. I was telling my age of it. But I did that, and that just wasn't who I was. And so I ended up making a skit. Wow, you're the first person I ever told this to in person. I know, right? I've always written about this part, but I created a skit of 300. I don't know if you remember that movie.
Like Leonidas?
Yeah, with Gerard Butler. I did a skit of that, and it ended up getting put on Comcast's parody channel, and it became a big deal. And then I got hit up by a producer who was like, have you thought about creating your own content? And he wanted to do more comedy. And I was like, well, I really have these ideas for horror. And so he wasn't interested, but what happened, it lit a fire in me to start considering making films. And then I ended up working at a company called LASIK Vision, where I met Zach Davis, and where he was a book writer. He had written books. He was an author. And we ended up getting together to write the script for the final project. And we're really like brothers. We're very close. But what happened is that we cultivated that film, was able to get it out. And really, that's how we got where we are today. It was awesome. Me sitting in that job with him after being inspired with my little skit to write the final project alongside him.
That is awesome. So kind of along those lines, as far as like writing movies, that whole thing goes. So what is the movie idea like that you want to see happen within your lifetime? The thing that's like, I know you probably have to have one, because as a creator, there's like that thing that you're like, oh man, this is the gold mine. And I'm curious, is it something that you've already made, or is it something that you're waiting until you get to a certain point to put it out there?
So here's a litany. I have a litany of those kind of things, right? Things that I just want to do that I think I could do really well. But my number one thing that I want to do, but I don't think I'm going to get a chance to do it, because I think they are working on it. I don't know where they are, but I really wanted to be the person, the director, to write and direct the He-Man series live action.
Oh, dude, I forgot about He-Man.
I am a huge He-Man fan. I have, I'm kind of a geek, okay? So
me too. It's okay.
But I have, the entire world of Masters of the Universe, right? This was my heroes growing up, and I have a plan for it. Like an actual world created of how to introduce He-Man in a Marvel Universe world type atmosphere. Because let's be honest, the Masters of the Universe, their world is just as big as Marvel.
True.
But dark as Game of Thrones, right? And so I wanted to create that world with He-Man, then bringing in the She-Ra character, the twin sister, right? And pump out about 5 or 6 of those films. That is the thing that if it doesn't work, I'm still right now working on a long form concept. If for some reason it doesn't work, they don't make it happen, you might see my face pop up.
That's really awesome.
Peddling my He-Man story.
Yeah.
I have like all the books, all the comics, the strip, everything.
That's really cool.
I really want to tell that story. That
is really cool. That's how I feel about the Percy Jackson and the Aragon series. Because both of those, like, I feel like, and both of those were made by Peter Jackson. I don't know how he screwed both of those movies up, in my opinion. I mean, to each their own, but I mean, the books are pretty clear. There's a pretty awesome story there. Right. They had to and they did it with Lord of the Rings. So I was like, how do you not know how to adapt a book to a movie? But I'm not going to bash on it. It is what it is. But I want to make those movies. That's the thing. It's like, because I love the series so freaking much. Like, I would love to make those movies or be in them or have something to do with them. That's how I was about superheroes. But I think I'm 24, so I'm a little bit too young. I missed that whole wave, like where Avengers and superheroes and like everything, all those people were getting into those roles. They were in their 20s to 25 or so, Yeah. I was like 14. So I was like, well, guess I can't do that. But, maybe one day, maybe when I'm older, they'll have a revitalization or they'll have some new superhero roles.
Well, listen, I don't think you're in good time. I'm assuring you there's not going to be a shortage of superhero movies anytime soon. So
that's true. There are a lot of superheroes that are uncovered that haven't gone out there yet, to be honest. Yeah. So that's a good point. So along the same kind of lines, like what kind of genres do you feel are calling to you like right now? Or do you think it's still horror movies? And where do you think that comes from, those changes and those calls?
So I'm always going to be a horror person. I'm always going to, what I've come to realize is that I am a writer, and that's with a period at the end. There is no genre. I write what inspires me. Right now I have dramas that are inspiring me, and I have sci-fi that's aspiring me to write them.
Right.
I don't work along those boxes. I see a lot of people, sometimes they allow themselves to kind of get, this is what you do. This is a you kind of film. And while I understand stamping your voice and it makes them comfortable to be able to put you in a place and hold you. This is primarily why I'm an independent filmmaker.
Right.
And why you may never see me outside of a career, outside of a Quentin Tarantino, because that's what I'm striving for.
One of the best.
Yeah, absolutely. But his roadmap is what I'm looking for. Jason Blum's roadmap is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
The reason why is because I want to make films, whatever it looks like, whatever the story is, what is inspiring. Now, when I help other filmmakers make films, when I help them get their work out, that's we can do whatever. Whatever inspires them, and we believe in it as a company, we'll get behind it. But as me, the writer, I just write. So whatever comes across my mind, and I'm like, okay, this because I have my next 3 films planned out. That's a psychological thriller that's in the likeness of The Shining. That's going to be I just got the rights to a New York's bestseller that I can't mention just yet, but I have the rights to that. And it's like a darker version of Waiting to Exhale, if you will. And then there's going to be a biopic that's similar to Harvey Milk about a Black gay activist of the 60s.
Nice.
And so, but this is just, they're all completely different types of films. So, and my pen is as strong on each one of them because I'm inspired by the stories. And when I believe in something, I can go there. It's when I don't believe where I struggle. So
it's like, it's not so much that you write horror movies, it's that they just happen to be.
Yeah, horror was the cheapest way to get in. Let's be honest, It was found footage. It cost, not so much. And I was able to get it done below $1 million, which would, you usually would spend a lot more than that. And so I was able to get it for less than $1 million and, start my whole career on my own terms. So I have a lot of respect for what horror is able to do. So as a filmmaker, it's not so much about making the greatest film. It's about making the film with the most endurance. So my film is still moving numbers, the final project. And it just went to Walmart as a DVD, Best Buy, Barnes and Nobles, Target. So, and this is 4 years ago. Yeah. But because it has endurance, people are interested because it's horror. So it's very hard to really funk up a horror movie. You just got to write something that you believe in and write something that has endurance, which means it needs to have a 3-act structure, a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you can do that and put people in there that can act, that can walk and chew gum at the same time, you might have yourself,
That's a good point.
Something that can work,
That's a good point, because when you think about like some of the most popular horror movies that have ever been out there, like not even like the biggest ones, but just in my lifetime that I'm thinking on, it's like that. Not to bash on any of the actors, because usually they have like new actors that are in those roles. They're not always like the greatest actors, It's like they have these reactions and these cheesy things that they do where you're like, okay, this is a cheesy horror movie, but I still like it. It's fine.
You're still gonna watch it. Look at Sharknado.
Yeah, exactly.
And I listen. In all fairness, I'm a huge fan of Sharknado. Yeah, I've watched all of the books. So it's 5 of them. So, but these were not misery. These were not award-winning shows, but they were good. Exactly. Someone wanted to make a movie. They made a movie. They made it work for them, and they kept it moving. And I think sometimes a lot of filmmakers, I watch them struggle because they have these big, massive $20 million scripts. And like, I'm going to make this $20 million film. And I'm like, but if you just make a film and you pull a name for yourself, you'll have a better chance of making that $20 million film, because you can use the leverage of having a W-2 with the earnings from a film to say, hey, look, I made this and it broke even, or I paid them back, or guess what? I made some money. Right. This is what I can do where you give me $20 million or you give me $5 million, whatever it is that you're looking for. So you kind of, this day and age, the thing is, because of the world of the YouTubers and people are so easy to make things, you have to walk in the door with receipts of what you can do. So it was much easier for me to get my second film done because of the receipts from the first one.
Exactly.
And I'm assuming my third one will be a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You know, it's funny that you say that because literally like 10 minutes ago or not 10 minutes ago now, but 10 minutes before we got onto the podcast, I was checking Gary Vee's Instagram. He's been posting about this exact topic all day long, where he's talking about like 1 is better than 0. If you have nothing out there, it's impossible. Like literally there's nothing out there, but if you have one thing, you can improve on that one thing, you know?
It's the truth. I'm telling you, one of my EPs, one of my executive producers who was one of the EPs on Hallowed Be Thy Name, he says to me, he's like, we were talking about what kind of numbers we hope to do and what could happen with HBTN. And he was like, don't worry about a home run. You need a base hit. Let this be a thing that gets you to second base. And then you'll keep going and you'll get to third base. Everyone can't have a career, that you put a film in a film festival and you become an Oscar winner the next year. That's not the totality for everyone. Some of us have to climb the ladder step by step. And I'm okay with that because I think it's making me, I've made some great achievements, but I've also gotten some great lessons and I've taken some heavy ass whippings, and getting here, but it's made me so much tougher and so much more focus, and I think overall much more interesting to talk to because I feel like this journey has given me a real story so that when I do walk the stage years from now with my Academy Award, I know that I've earned every step up those flights to get to that podium.
I love those affirmations. I love how you said win instead of win. I love that.
It's win. Absolutely win. Absolutely
awesome,
win.
Man. I really like that. I would suggest coming from a marketing, social media, branding kind of person, that's what a little bit of background. If you listened to some of my podcasts earlier, you'll know that's what I do. I would suggest that you do some YouTube and Instagram ads, like short little video trailers, and you send them out specifically to people between the ages of 15 to 30 that are into horror stuff. Because that's a huge, I know from growing up, we used to have movie parties all the time in high school where literally my friends would just come over and we just watch horror movies, like cheesy movies or Quentin Tarantino movies. Like you were saying, we literally would have a Quentin Tarantino day where we watched nothing but Quentin Tarantino movies that day.
Wow.
So it's like you
that's a good note.
Get those niche people that follow Quentin Tarantino or the niche, like other people that you were mentioning a minute ago. You can actually target people specifically that follow their content because you're kind of in that same indie. So there's a good chance they would probably watch it. And since it's streamed, this new movie could actually be a huge thing for your career if you do it right with the COVID thing going on, because everyone's home already. So if you go on social media, you run the right kind of ads and you target the right people and you say, hey, this is going straight to streaming. You don't even got to go to a movie theater. Put it in your living room, have your friends come over, do it on the party watch or whatever. It's like you could promote all these different ways of watching it. I think that could be a huge thing actually, because not really many people are releasing movies digitally right now.
Right. The whole thing hard. Going on. Yeah. A lot of people are stuck. Listen, that's some good advice. Now I'm going to take that for sure. So thank you for that. You keep giving me advice like that, I'm about to make you a job offer. Okay.
Hey, it's what I do. If you want to work together, let me know. I do consultation, videography, all this stuff too. So I would love to help you with it. Yeah. No,
I like that. That's a good note. We could talk offline for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's see, leaving the corporate world, we have a huge similarity with that. I kind of had a moment in my life where I just realized I'm the manager of this whole department I made my job. So like my social media strategy, marketing to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, all of those good things, making content for companies and stuff. It was awesome. I was having fun. And then it got to this point where I was in an office alone and my team was in another room and I had to go down the hall to socialize, and socializing meant teaching or being a manager, and I felt like ostracized in a way, and it just made me feel like, why? Even though I made it, like literally the things that I did on a day-to-day basis were my decision because I created the entire department from scratch. It didn't exist when I started there. So it was like I made the job, but being stuck in that office position was just like torture. It was like every time I would try to create something, it was just and so I'm curious for you, if it was like me, like towards the end, you just realized, man, this is not working out for me. I cannot do this. Or if it was a thing like from the beginning, you were like, well, I got to do it. I got to put in my time, make my money, and I'll do something later. But right now, this is what I got to do. So I'm curious which side, either you weren't interested from the beginning or towards the end, you realized this isn't for me. I'm just curious.
So I was always interested, right? Because I got my MBA, so I wanted to be in corporate. I made a conscious decision to move myself in that direction. I thought that would be the thing that would, I don't know, make me rich. I don't know what I was going for because I didn't really know what I wanted. And I ran away from my gifts and the talents to choose stability and comfort. That's really what was happening. I wanted to buy a house. I wanted a car. I wanted all the things that my friends were getting. They were getting families. They were becoming adults.
Right.
And so I wanted to grow up and become all those things. But what happened is that during that process, I realized that those things didn't mean as much to me as it meant for my independence and my freedom. And really my life form was being drained, right? I was going back and forth to a job and killing it. I mean, I was literally killing it, great accounts, making lots of money for someone else, which was fine because that's what you're paid to do. But I realized that I could do it for myself. I could stand on my own 2 feet and I could take part in the American dream in a real way and build my own legacy. And so I walked away with no real plan. I had an idea, I had a script, but that wasn't a plan. It was just, I'm going to make a movie by any means necessary. And that's literally what happened. I remember when we were looking for the money for the film, we had a lot of people talk about, talk. We can help you. We'll help you. I'll put a little money towards your film. And then you get to them and you have the meetings with them and nothing happens. They don't really have the funds or they don't really, want to because you're untested and, they don't really know they want to give you these large amounts of money. But when you're determined, you don't stop. I remember getting in a car with my brother and he was like, let's just ride around and we're going to look at big houses and we're going to just knock on the door and we're going to ask these people if they could help us. Because what happened is I had gotten my distribution deal, but they wanted us to come up with the P&A funding. And so get there and knock on the door and the guy who invested in my first film, he's like, look, I've been drinking. He was like, leave me your little book. And he was like, I'll let you know tomorrow. Come back. And I came back tomorrow. My business plan was good. He was like, look, I'm going to give you the money. And so he gave me the money. I didn't know this man from anybody, I didn't know who he was, but he believed in it because I believed in it and I never gave up. But that's because years ago, time ago, I was sitting in a job where my life form was being drained. So I knew that I had to make a change. So when I walked away, I was bound and determined for success because I no longer had a plan B.
Right. I actually really admire that too, because a lot of people never actually take that jump. They never actually pick themselves. And I think that's one of the most sad things actually about living, especially now, we live in a digital age. So there's literally no excuse to not pick yourself because even if you do it as a side hustle, give yourself at 6 months to a year and you can generate enough income to make it a full-time hustle if you really actually care about it. And maybe you fall short, that's not always realistic, but if you really, really do everything you can make it happen. I mean, we live in a day where I can pull this thing right here, go free stuff on Let Go and OfferUp, go grab some free stuff, go to eBay and go, who wants to buy it? There's easy money.
It's true. You're right. That's more nuggets. That's true. I mean, you're right.
It just doesn't make sense to me why people try to say that they can't, because the option of can't is just, I feel like it's more so they trust someone else's ability to provide for themselves more than their own ability to provide for themselves. And that's pretty sad.
And it's hard. Let me tell you, that statement you're making, I agree with you. And I used to say it a lot, but then I thought about something too. I considered a different side of school of thought. It's hard, sometimes these people find themselves with kids. Sometimes these people find themselves, without a real plan. And the thing is, what I've come to realize is that everyone can't be the leader.
Exactly.
And everyone can't be the entrepreneur. Some people have to be the worker. Some people have to go to work and run the business. And I learned that. And that's why they're people like us. Absolutely, they love it. And I love it. And I love it. And I love it for them. But what I've realized is that I am a visionary. I conceptualize. This is what I do.
Exactly.
I'm always dreaming of something big. I'm always dreaming of something bigger than me. And my job is to inspire other people to reach and strive for those things.
Right. I like that you have like a core of what you do. I would say the core of what I do is just communication. It's all about communicating and letting people know they can communicate, because a lot of what I do comes from the guise of like with my background and the stuff that I grew up with and the hardships that I went through. Not focusing on the stuff that happened, but focusing on here's where I am now. Like I could be some crazy messed up mental person because of all these things, but here I am saying, you know, the first 18 years of my life don't dictate what I do with the next 80 or so. So that's up to me.
Absolutely.
You know, that's a decision I make. So if you wouldn't have left the corporate world, like just doing a little thought experiment right here. I don't know if you've ever really thought too much on it because it is your passion. And like for me, I've not really thought too much on if I was still at that job because it wasn't really an option. You know, it was like, I don't know, I wouldn't be there. So I couldn't tell you. But if you were still there, where do you think you'd be right now? Like, what do you think you'd be doing? Do you think you'd be happy? Where do you think you'd be in life?
If I hadn't left corp, I don't know. That's hard to say because I was so bound for entrepreneurship. I mean, I would have been running some type of business at some point. It just even my trajectory in what I was doing, I would have been a CEO of probably some small tech company by now. Or a small telecom company. That would have definitely been the case.
Right. I do think there's different personalities for those different positions for sure. Like you just can't help it. You fall into it.
I can't help it. I was born a leader. I'm not going to lie. I just like it. I like it. And it's not about being in charge. I like empowering people. Right. That's the thing. Exactly. And people confuse it when you say, oh, I'm a leader. I'm not a dictator. I'm a leader. I'm not a manager. I'm a leader. You know, it's not about me being in charge. It's about, I like empowering people. I love coming across people and them telling me they're passionate and they get excited about it, but they don't know how. And I like when my leadership joins that conversation and I show them the roadmap. Right. That's what a leadership is all about. That's collaboration. Giving them the way to go to get where they have to get. Every filmmaker that I work with, I always try to empower them to become just as much of a self-made filmmaker as I am. Anybody on my team, they know that you believing in my dream, you fighting for my dream. When it's your turn, when it's time for your film, I will be right behind you, pushing you with your film. That's what leadership is. I will give you a roadmap and together we will walk that road, good and bad and the ugly, all together. That's what it's all about. And so that's why I like myself where I'm at. And what I would have been doing in any company, I would have continuously been a CEO because I would have been setting a roadmap for my team.
I love this. I knew we were going to get along because I could just tell from those podcast interviews. I was like, man, we are so similar right now. That's crazy.
It's true.
Like literally the only reason I started my company at all was because thinking long term, you know, like for example, right now I'm working with a music producer who is putting together this whole brand. They're called Creative Control, and they sign artists, help them make music, record, do the engineering, all that good stuff. And I'm working on a deal with them to where I manage their brand and the artists that they sign onto their onto their label. And it's like, yeah, that's really cool, but I didn't do that for me because I'm a minimalist. I'm still going to just take home what I need and put the rest back into my company and put the rest back into my art and what I love doing. But what the reason why I set up these deals, not just with them, but with a couple of other people to kind of be in an ambassador role as well, that's going to give me so much jobs that I can give to other people. You know, I'm connected to these creator groups and YouTuber groups because that's what I also do. And it's like, I know all these people that edit videos, make videos, do podcasts, they edit the podcasts, they do photography, they do all these like crazy animations, like literally anything you could ever need for any kind of content creation. I have a Discord channel that I could just be like, hey, who wants some work? And I did these things so that I can do that. Like you said, creating opportunities for other people. Because they may not understand, like when I was in an office and I was sitting there on the computer doing my work, doing social media, and I was like, the only thing I want to be doing right now is making videos. I want to be doing a podcast. I want to be writing. I need to be creating, but I'm stuck here doing production. And I was like, I know there's other people that feel that same way. And I know that they have no idea how they're going to make that happen because I have no idea how I'm going to make that happen. And so what I decided to do was put together a system that makes it so they don't have to know how to make that happen. If you want to work from home and make videos and create content, I will provide an actual job where you can do that. You could just, you know, get some freelance work, do what you got to do and make the money you need to make. If you don't want to do 8 hours a day, just take one job. It's like, it's like you pick the frequency. I really believe in empowering other people as well. That's literally the forefront of everything that I do. So I really, really connect with that. I love that you're on that same mindset.
No, that's just where I'm at. I remember one time when I first started, someone's like, "Oh, you're a boss." And I was like, "I'm not a boss. I don't know what that means." And then I started interpreting what it really means. And I'm like, now when people say you're a boss, I'm like, yeah, I'm a boss because I provide money for my people that work with me. So I give them a revenue stream. That's what bosses do. Yeah. And that's what leaders do. I make sure my people are eating. And that's
exactly. I love that you said that. My friend Ghost says that all the time. That's the guy that's running the creative control, the engineer thing. That's his line. That's like his mantra. He's like, my whole team eats, man. That's what I care about.
And that's it. Eats. That's all. That's all it is. That's all it's about. Because you are only as good as your team. So they hungry. You're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. Your weakest link is as strong as you are at the end of the day.
It's true.
Like that's the perception that people are going to see. It's as good as your movie is. If you have that one bad act, like for example, Star Wars Episode 3, right? It's not the greatest movie in the world. Like not really too many people like the prequels, but it's not the worst either. There's like certain things you can literally point to the movie and be like, this, and this is where they messed up. If they would, like the actor, for example, that played Anakin, making him look, he was 25. He didn't look 19. It's like little consistencies. Yeah. And he went on to do way better acting after that. That was one of his first things. And so you could tell whenever he was responding, it's just these dry, like, it didn't make sense to the conversation of what was happening. So it's like that whole movie is only as good as those dry moments.
It's true.
Because that's what people are going to notice.
That's a solid example. Whew.
Yeah. I love it, man. So I heard you talking a lot about legacy on one of the podcasts that I was listening to. And I am a huge advocate for legacy. Leaving behind a collection of work that resembles the creativity and passion behind the person that's putting it all together. So making sure that when people see your collection of work, they understand that it's like we talked about earlier, the creativity that flows through you to share your story. For me, I make content so that my great-great-great-grandchild can open this video up and be in on this conversation. Like they're sitting right there on my couch listening to me have this interview, and they will know me better than most people that walk on this planet, that I just walk by and say hi and that's it. These people will, like these people that can't know me because I don't exist anymore, I'm dead, will get to have a full-on conversation basically with me right now because I'm doing this. They will know what made their life, what made their legacy. So I'm curious with you, like I want to hear you talk more on that legacy stuff, like what it is that you're building, your foresight, the things that you're really doing this for. I'm curious about that.
So for me, the main thing is generational wealth. Using my talents to provide generational wealth for my family. As an African-American person, a Black person, it's hard to look back and see a line of rich Black people in my lineage. And so I want to be a cornerstone. I want to be the person that when you look back, I'm like the Henry Ford of my family.
Exactly.
I've changed the whole concept and I'm watching my great nieces, my grandkids, the whole people that come after me, they have grown up with enough money to attend the Yales and the Harvards, changing the pedigree and growing my family base and the generational wealth of my family. I think that's what I was put on earth to do. You are supposed to move your family along if you're a steward of your family. And I think, my grandmother did it for me. She made sure that I was able to, along with my mother, to go to college. And I went on to become one of the first ones in my family to get my degree. By far, one of the ones in my family to have not one, but two masters because of what they showed. So now my job is to make sure those that come after me have financial independence and financial freedom and even better schools with better opportunity. So that's the whole thing. And that's what this all comes down to. I'm using my talents to open doors for those that are coming after me because someone opened the door for me.
That's really awesome, man. I really love that because that's exactly what I'm doing this for too. It's like, I want to definitely, it's like I want my kids and their kids and their kids to look back and say like, man, great-great-great-grandpa Michael really like he really was thinking about us. Like he wasn't just living his life day to day thinking about what was good for him. He was literally sitting there thinking, what can I do to make sure that their lives are easier? Like he cared about us that much that from generations away, he was thinking, what can I do to make sure that whatever they dream about, whatever they love, they can follow it, they can pursue it. They don't have to go through these roadblocks, you know, because it takes time.
Hard. It does take time. And if you don't have, you know, I didn't grow up with relationships and, you know, corporate America or relationships of friends who went to Harvard or whatever it is. I didn't have that, you know, I had to go and earn that.
Right.
I have friends now that have gone to Harvard. I have my network is impressive, but I had to earn it brick by brick. And I want to make the next generation coming after me to, you know, grow in it, you know,
exactly.
And they come up through that. And so it's a little easier for them to do the things they do.
And then imagine what they'll be able to create. Absolutely. Because you come from it where you kind of had to unwire your brain from corporate mode, where you kind of had to say, okay, this isn't a, you know, let's put a quarter in and we get 2 quarters out or whatever. It's like, we really got to do this and it may flop. But if it flops, we make something else, we move on. It's like changing that mindset of what failure is.
And that's the thing people don't understand. You have to fail. And no one that has ever made it got there. You know, when you think about Oprah or you think about Steve Jobs or you think about all the great men and women who've had these phenomenal successful lives and careers, they didn't get that by taking the easy route. Let me tell you, there's some hardships in the beginning, before the fame and, you know, the notoriety, and they still endure it now to keep that legacy from being, you know, poached by the haters. So, which is a hard job to do in this era with social media, where they can take you out with one cancel meme.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, actually. The cancel culture right now is pretty ridiculous because it's like, I understood it at first, like where the root of it was, because it was like these people that were actually doing terrible things. And it's like, okay, maybe you shouldn't be making millions of dollars to be able to make movies if you're raping the people that are in your movies. Like
absolutely. I completely agree with
you shouldn't have that ability. That's cool. That kind of cancel culture perfectly makes sense. But like you said something in a tweet, or not a tweet, or you said something to somebody 20 years ago in context to what was actually funny 20 years ago. And then now in 2020, they posted up on Twitter and they're like, hey, look what he said in 2000 when everybody was canceled. Yeah, when it's like you could be repeating a line from Friends and you could be putting yourself in a raunchy situation, you know, because you were just repeating a line from Friends, which was a critically acclaimed TV show that everybody watched, you know?
True.
But out of context, all they have is the clip of you saying it. They say, well, look, he said it. So you got to point to that.
Absolutely. So it's a task. It's a task. It's definitely a task to deal with all this.
Yeah. So you're from Louisiana, right? And now you're living in Atlanta. Right? Is that right? Okay. So I thought that was super interesting. I actually grew up outside of Atlanta. So like you said, you're about an hour and a half from Louisiana or from New Orleans. You can't say from New Orleans. I can't really say I'm from Atlanta because I'm actually from Cartersville, but nobody knows what Cartersville is. It's like 45 minutes. Well, yeah, you would, but nobody ever knows what Cartersville is, but that's where I grew up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's like Cartersville primary, and then up in Calhoun, like that whole area, Gordon County and everything. So I'm curious for you, what was the transition like going from Louisiana to Atlanta? And then after you've been there for this whole time, I'm curious, do you see more Atlanta culture influencing your creativity? Because I know you said you get a lot of influence from Louisiana and your Creole culture, you know, like the French names and those kinds of things. So I'm really curious, is Atlanta starting to influence your culture at all? Or is that still something where you're just living there?
You know, the truth of the matter is I absolutely love Atlanta. I don't know if I can just identify Atlanta's quote unquote culture, only because where I'm from is such a cultural place. Right. The culture where I'm from is so pronounced, you can't miss it. It's beyond identifiable. So coming here, there's a little bit of a lackluster of that. So it's hard to see Atlanta influence me in that way because it hasn't overturned what I, you know, experienced growing up in a, you know, Cajun country, and then moving to New Orleans and getting my degree, and then going to Chicago. I was there a year, which has a very heavy culture as well. And then coming to the South, back to the South to go to, you know, come to Atlanta, I'd have to say no. I think my Louisiana roots will always be the most significant thing about me in regards to my cultural influences. Because I'm Creole and it's different and I like it. And so I embody it in almost everything that I do. The way I cook, the way I respond to things, the way I show love to people. Because it's not just a Southern thing. it's a Louisiana thing, and it's very different. You know, Louisiana is in the South, but it's especially Southwest and Southeast Louisiana, we are just a different type of Southern people, if you will.
Right.
I was looking at a map one time, and they called us the New France. It's just different. We moved different, we cook different. And so because of that, I take all those things and embody it in the work that I do here. So I think my culture is influenced in Atlanta at this point.
Yeah, that's really cool. Have you seen like people starting to pick up on some, like the people you interact with? That kind of thing? You've seen that?
Well, you see it all around. I'm starting to see more people eat crawfish, and I'm starting to see more people, eating a lot more Louisiana dishes and Louisiana influences. And Mardi Gras is starting to become a big thing here. And I'm like, wow, you guys are catching on. We've always been trendsetters. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Really cool. So I think they're adopting some of our culture.
That's really awesome. So, being in Atlanta, you should hit up on Twitter or whatever, wherever you would want to connect with them. Somebody that might be able to help you out, though, as far as like the back end, like branding kind of stuff as well. Lives in Atlanta. He's a friend of mine, Roberto Blake. I don't know if you've ever heard of him before, but
no, not yet.
Yeah, he's pretty big on YouTube. He makes like educational content. So it's like he does stuff like how to brand and do all these things, that kind of stuff. So that might also be another resource that you could use, especially for like marketing your stuff with it. Because I really, really feel that since you're streaming, it's exclusively straight to streaming with the movie that you have coming out, the Hallowed Be Thy Name. I almost did it again. Hallowed. I almost did it again. Oh man. So with Hallowed Be Thy Name, with that being exclusively digital, I think you really, really need to especially now because it's May 11th. So if it comes out June, you said 2nd? Is that what you said? Yeah. So June 2nd, that's now's the perfect time. That's 3 weeks. That's plenty of time because you don't want to do it too long, because if you advertise too long, then it's like people are like, oh, when's it coming? Yeah. Can you stop?
Exactly. Because we're in a now culture. People they want to see the advertisement and then click to pre-order or buy or watch.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to have a call to action on it
absolutely.
Unfortunately, people will be excited about it. And then come like July 1st or whatever, they'll be like, oh, wait a second. What was that movie again that I was supposed to, I was excited about? And then they go searching for it and they can't remember what it was. And that's the whole thing.
Exactly. You're right.
It's like, please remember this, make a note.
Yes.
So one of the big things that I like to ask every single person that I have that comes onto the show. So I make sure to say it like directly to the camera, because I want it to really be an impactful moment for the listeners. And I'm going to clip this out too and make it like its own separate clip. Okay. If you were talking to the young you, like the person that's just starting out, you're feeling the passion, you want to make it happen, you're in corporate America, and then you start realizing this isn't for me. I want to make content. What do you tell yourself to like get started? What advice do you give yourself to give a little bit of a leg up and have an easier go at it than what you had?
I would tell myself to be fearless. And I would tell myself that no matter what obstacles you are going to face, they're only going to make you better. They're going to make you stronger. And that you're going to have to love your work more than anybody else. And you're always going to have to be willing to be your own champion. It will get you through your roughest days. And it'll get you through all of the struggle of working and, being independent for yourself.
Right.
If you can do that, you can make it. You can make it.
That's true. Because at the end of the day, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about a second ago. What is failure? Unless you draw a line in the sand and you say, I'm done, can you really fail? Like, I actually really don't like the word failure, because I feel
it's a fake word. And what I mean, I sound like Donald Trump, it's a fake word. But what I mean is that you can't really fail, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you go through is an opportunity for you to learn something. Yeah. There's always a reason for everything. I remember I used to hear the old people say, oh, there's a rhyme and a reason for everything we do. And I'd be like, shut up. I hate hearing that. But the fact is, they were absolutely right. Everything is an order, right? All things work together. So if you're failing here, quote unquote, and someone is winning, that only means that your karma, right? The universe is going to come back around and give you your just due.
Yeah.
You take one for the team, and then you keep moving forward with determination, and you will have the chance to reap what you sow. So if you sow well, lose well, fail graciously, you're going to win bigger, faster, and better than you would have had you won the time when you were failing.
Exactly. Because who wins if you win the first time that you try to do something too, what's the motivation to ever do anything else?
Listen, the prime example of that is when you look at child actors. And of course, I'm not generalizing and talking about all child actors. This is just a few, right? They win really early. There's a lot of pressure on teenagers when you see your other, peers. Just imagine growing up as a Justin Bieber age person and you watching this young kid with all this money and all this fame and all this, and then you look around and you're like, well, I'm not doing anything with my life. You could feel like a quote unquote failure.
Right.
But if you fast forward life, what you can't see 15 years later is that unfortunately some of those people on drugs, some of those people are having bad relationships. And then you look at other people who find success a little later in life, 35, 40, and they find the success. They're the ones you're going to see 75-year-olds, Morgan Freeman, right?
Yeah.
They're still present. They're still relevant. They're still making movies because they got it with the endurance game
exactly.
Played, not just the early quick win, because sometimes you will fizz out. And so I remember hearing Whitney Houston say, I want to peak at a certain time. I don't want to just all be one thing at one moment. I want to peak my career over, a span of years. And that's the whole thing with me. This is my second film and I am, nowhere near my peak.
Right. So the other films that were on your IMDb page, wow, that's hard to say. Were those just films that you worked on then?
So no, when we talk about, I don't ever really count my short films in regards to my total professional count. While they are, I love doing short films that keep your skills sharp. When I speak of films, I only speak of features that I've written. I've produced on a bunch of stuff, and I have a ton of short content that has been award winning, and even some of them have made some good money back, but features are what I'm ultimately going to be doing full time. And so when I say two, I'm speaking of just my features. Gotcha.
That's really awesome, man. How many features do you have cooking right now? Just out of curiosity.
So this year we're going to release 2 more features, but not, these are 2 that I'm distributing for other filmmakers. So I'm producing on those. They're already done. So this film's going to come out in August and another one in October.
Nice.
And then next year, I have on my to-do slate for myself, I have those 3 films I talked about earlier: the psychological thriller, the drama, and the biopic. So I'm currently wrapping up the script on the psychological thriller, and then we're going to start putting the lookbooks together and getting the EPKs ready and start shopping them.
That's really awesome, dude. You know what? Just an idea. You could totally make a horror movie Remote. I was thinking about this earlier whenever I was taking a shower, getting ready for this, listening to your podcast. You were talking about your process and stuff. I totally saw this in my head. You could totally be the first one to do this. Take the idea, run with it if you want to. But I was thinking you could totally package a basic camera and instructions on how to set it up on a stand and do it right with a green screen, and basically have these actors that you send them the green screen, you show them how they set it up, put the camera up, and they get in front of the thing and they do what they're supposed to do, and then they send it back. They send you the digital footage back. They send you the SD cards back. And then on your end, because it's a green screen, multiple people, you tell them where to stand, they have their mark. So it's you can say you're on the far right hand, you're on the far left hand, you're in the middle, you're going to be right here. Yeah. You could even do this. You could video call them and make sure okay, no, move a little bit to the left and do your, director stuff. You're let's do that again. Let's do that take again. All that stuff could be remote. And then you use the green screen footage to mix together and make it look like everyone's all in one thing. Yeah. That could be interesting.
That's very interesting. I actually think that's very cool.
Yeah. I was thinking about that earlier. It's and I don't think anyone's ever done that either.
Well, it's so funny because I'm watching these people make these quarantine short films, but this will be really fun and interesting.
Exactly.
I have to edit this part out so I can keep this a secret.
Oh, okay. He's ooh, I need this.
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
See, these are the ideas you get when you work with Michael.
Okay. Michael is on my team.
Hey. He's man, you're just giving me gold all day.
No, I love it. I'm here for it. Let me tell you.
That's awesome. All right. So it's about time to wrap up the episode. Where can people find you? So, the social media stuff, IMDb.
I'm everywhere. But social media, if you want to engage with me, I'm on Twitter, but I'm really, really heavy on Instagram. And my social media is REEL_TAYLOR. So real_Taylor on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Smart. You always want to have the same username. Just another little tidbit. No matter how many social media platforms you create, always use the same username if you can, because the way Google caches information, it'll make you show up a lot. It'll make you show up a lot better for anything horror related, because everything you do is in that same like vibe, you know? So when people search for terms around those vibes, you'll just keep coming up and coming up and coming up the more that you do that. And you
see my face.
Yeah, exactly. And then eventually you'll be like you said earlier, you'll be like the Quentin Tarantino person where it's like, hey man, let's have a Taylor Ri'chard night. Let's watch his movies.
Okay, I can't wait.
Yeah, man, it's going to be great. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and being on the Wednesday Wanderer. It was awesome having you. I look forward to getting this out. The episode will be releasing tomorrow. So if you guys, when you guys are listening to this, we did this yesterday. So we're in our houses. This is my first remote podcast, as you guys know, if you're listening to this. Super excited to be able to putting out a next day podcast too, because that's something else that I don't usually do. Normally people have like specific dates, and it's like a little bit more of a, I want it out like 6 months from now. Yeah. So it's like, because they show up, because it's physical. So it's like, doesn't always align with when they're able to come sit on the couch, and when they actually need it to be out, doesn't always quite line up, but luckily this one lined up perfectly. So it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was a great interview. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week.
If you liked this episode of the podcast, please be sure to subscribe and follow on whatever your listening application of choice may be. That way, you can get notifications every Wednesday when we upload a brand new episode. If you're listening to this via audio podcast format, you can watch the video for this episode on YouTube, DTube, or pretty much any other platform where video can be natively distributed. Please be sure to like, comment, and share to get the conversation rolling and build out this community of like-minded professionals so we can learn from each other and share our stories. Links to all the products I use to make this content are down in the description below, as well as all the links for our fantastic guest and what we talked about in this episode. If you would like to further show your support for the channel, you can find out how you can be a direct supporter on Patreon or Anchor in the description below. Or you can make your way over to shopmichaelbisbell.com and get yourself some awesome new merch from our collection of designs, or one of the digital tools to help accelerate your own brand forward. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Wednesday Wanderer. I look forward to seeing you back here next week.